what's up? Welcome back into the kitchen. I'm really excited for this video because I am teaming up with some friends of mine and we're gonna do a little collaboration. And in fact, I'm gonna show you how to make a recipe. Hopefully you're gonna make it on Monday and eat it live with us together. We're gonna make a cocktail and we're gonna have a nice little dessert. Tonight, I'm gonna show you how to make the dessert. What's on the menu, you say? We're gonna do a little play on apple crisp, and I think it's simple ingredients. It should be easy for anyone to. You might even have all these ingredients without even having to leave the comfort of your home. Apples are in season right now, so I think it's perfect time. Before we jump into this recipe though, I really wanted to say thanks to Nick and his crew at Cellarman's Folly for really inspiring this whole thing. Cellarman's Folly is a company that focuses on making whiskey. One of the tiers on their Patreon page is every month they host a live cocktail class where they have an experimental whiskey that they're working on and they make something delicious to drink with it. And we're actually gonna do that this Monday. It's a couple of days from now. I'm hoping that you can get all the ingredients and join us. I'm gonna be on a Zoom call with Nick and all his patrons from Cellarman's Folly, and I'm gonna go live on the channel with that. I think it'll be really fun. So even if you can't make it, you should definitely hang out. It's gonna be Monday nights between 7 and 8. I'll make sure I post the details below, so check it out. I have here some whiskey from Cellarman's Folly, and I'm gonna use this in the dessert. So we're gonna have a nice little Boozy baked apple supreme. To start, make sure you get a nice big bowl, fill it with some cold water, and squeeze the juice of 1 lemon in there. I didn't have a lemon, I went with a lime. It seemed to work fine last time. That's just gonna keep the integrity of the apple. You don't want an apple without any integrity. So let's just basically get all the skin off these apples. And this is where an apple corer will really come in handy. $10 goes a long way, especially if you're making stuff every single year. You know, don't lose that thing. And apples are basically available all season long, but nothing's better than a homegrown apple. I was thinking it would be cool if you went with a tart animal. I was thinking it would be a cool idea to go with a tart apple and a sweet apple. However, I only have some sweet, juicy apples in the fridge right now, so I'm gonna do that. But if you get your hands on a Granny Smith or two, that would be a really cool combination of flavors to mix up with, like the brown sugar and everything else going into this dish. Anything that can hold up in the oven without turning it into straight up applesauce will be a good apple for you though. The reason why an apple corer is really important for this recipe is because you're gonna hollow out one of these apples completely so that you can fill it with the like apple pie filling. And it's way easier with one of these. Now you could take a paring knife and score around there, that'd be fine as well. It took me a lot longer, and just please, if you're gonna do that, don't cut your fingers off. It's gonna ruin your entire fall. Okay, cool. Now this is gonna be the apple that I'm gonna completely hollow out, so it's just a nice thin shell. So I want to actually grab my knife and just kind of clean off the top so it's a little flatter. So I'll do that with the bottom first. This is where I have like a really crooked eye, so hopefully I don't screw this up too bad. Great, so it's relatively close. It took me a couple of tries, but you got yourself a nice little hole. Look at that. Hey. Ew. And now I'm just gonna basically push my corer down and twist it. Cut off these little chunks. Put it back in the cold lemon water because you're gonna want to use this for your filling. I just feel like this would be a cool little presentation if your friends are coming over and you're like,
yo, check this out. I made an apple filled with apple, drizzled with apple.
Not a good day to be an apple, if I'm being honest. That sounds like a horror scene from a movie. You got a nice little thin apple shell, right? You're gonna set that in the cold water so it doesn't turn into a brown piece of trash. This other one that we took the skin off, we can just cut around the core. We don't have to go crazy with the apple core. And then slice them up as if we were gonna use this for, like, let's say an apple pie. Eventually I'm gonna cut them up into smaller chunks, but I don't wanna be fishing for them in that cold water, so just nice little 1/4-inch chunks are fine for right now. Boop. Now we can just set the apples aside for a little bit and deal with the other stuff. Okay, next I'm gonna show you how to make the really easy topping, which is just some rolled oats and a little bit of sugar, some maple syrup, all the sweet stuff. That's gonna be that delicious topping that you just First, your spoon just kind of crunches through before you get into that ooey gooey apple pie filling. I'm gonna whip out the old trusty magic bullet for this. But basically all you're trying to do right now is break up some of these oats. I don't mind a couple chunks here and there, but I'd really like it to be more of a crumbly mixture. It's kind of got a little bit of everything in there, all sorts of textures, which is great. So that next, what you're gonna do is clean up your mess. You're gonna add white sugar, organic, brown sugar. You could go all brown sugar on this recipe, but it does get a little overpowering with that molassesy feeling if you go all brown all the time. Cinnamon and a pinch of salt, maple syrup. I'm mixing it together and it's just forming little kind of balls. You need sugary, delicious balls. Mix that up so the maple syrup is evenly mixed throughout, and then set it aside. Now we're ready to start cutting up those apple slices. They don't have to be perfect either. You just want to cut this into a few chunks. This is going to cook down a lot once we put it in the saucepan. So I'm going to give these guys a real rough chop. We're gonna take this party over to the stovetop, so let's go hang out over here. We're gonna get a small saucepan on medium heat. You be careful with these small saucepans because that flame will really get everything around there hot too. Don't burn your hand off. That's not fun. What you're gonna wanna do while this thing's heating up is you're gonna wanna grab 2 tablespoons of flavorless oil. For tonight, because I feel like this is what most people have in their homes, I'm gonna go with canola oil. And I'm just gonna coat the bottom of the pan. Once our oil's nice and hot, we're gonna start adding our apples in. Be careful, because there's a lot of water in here and you got hot oil, so. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of white sugar. Now you're most likely gonna see a lot of liquid come out of those apples, which is great. You want these apples to kind of break down. You want them to already be cooked because once you stuff them in that apple, basically all you're trying to do is cook the topping and cook the outside of the apple. And once that thing is fork tender, she's ready to go. At this point, you can crank the heat up. Simmer this for about 5 minutes or until the apples are nice and soft. And you're gonna wanna crank the oven up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit at this point in the game. I got some nice color on these apples. They're ready to go. I'm gonna set them aside, let them cool. Really what you're going for is just a nice soft apple. You don't have to get any color on them. If it doesn't happen, don't worry about it. While that's cooling, let's talk about a cooking vessel. I'm just thinking something nice and small for a single serving. If you only have a pie dish, that would work fine. A small baking dish. But if you have to use a small baking dish, you want to kind of put it in something that's going to be able to hold a little bit of liquid because this thing is going to leak out some juices as it's cooking. And you're also going to want to put some boozy, delicious, syrupy sauce halfway through the cooking once you take the foil off. So anyway, I'm talking too much. What do you say we stuff this thing? Okay, so I do have a little bit of oil left in the bottom of this pan. If you don't, you'll just want to put a little bit more flavorless oil down just so that nothing sticks. Rub it around there. Rub her around. Spoon in your apple filling. Like so. And I have a couple different shapes and sizes of apple in there. I think that's okay. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get a continuous cook, but I think if you don't mind a little crunchy apple in the bigger pieces, that's fine. And plus you're gonna get some crunchy apple on the outer shell, if you will. Oh boy, that looks good. Now you're gonna have some apple chunks left. That's great. Drizzle a tiny bit more maple syrup in on the top, and then press on our crisp. I think what would be really cool for this recipe as well is if you had a ramekin of sorts. Something like this that the apple could fit in would be really cool. And then you could just press on your crisp mixture. But I think this would be just fine. And if you have a baking sheet, what you're gonna wanna do is just make a little bowl out of tin foil so that the juices don't go all over and make a mess. And you might wanna use like double layers of tin foil just to be safe. We're gonna wrap this in tin foil for the first 20 minutes of cooking. And then after that, pop the tin foil right off. At this point, you should have a couple tablespoons of chunky apples and a little bit of oil left in your little sauce pot. Now we're gonna make the delicious Boozy sauce, courtesy of Cellarman's Folly whiskey. Thanks, Nick. Medium-high heat. Got some of our apples in there already. We do another tablespoon of brown sugar and organic white sugar. A little bit more maple syrup. Tiny bit more salt. Once we get the sugar completely dissolved, we're gonna add our alcohol. A quarter cup if you can get your hands on it. A couple tablespoons would be fine as well, depending on how boozy you want it. This is basically gonna deglaze the pan. Gonna pick up all those delicious flavors that we just cooked the last 20 minutes with those apples. Water. And bring this up to a boil. We're gonna reduce it to a nice, delicious syrup. Once it reduces down to a little less than half, ready to take it off the old heat. Make sure you turn the burner off. Oop, it's getting juicy. Now we're gonna want it to crisp up on top. We're actually gonna add half of our booze sauce, drizzle a little bit on top. Now we're gonna pop this back in the oven for another 20 minutes or so. I'll be seeing you in 20 minutes. We're gonna scoop this thing up. Ooh. Look at that goo at the bottom. A little bit more juice. A little scoop of vanilla ice cream. Maybe 2 scoops. Why not? Maybe a scoop and let's go with a scoop and a half. I went with the So Delicious Very Vanilla Ice Cream today with cashew milk. There's a little bit of booze juice left. So let's just put that. I don't really want to put too much on top because I want to keep that crunch. But let's put some of that booze juice down there. That way, some of that ice cream melts. Oh boy. She looks good. Who's hungry? Before we go in on this thing, I'm gonna let it cool down for another minute or so because I am not trying to burn my mouth off. If you're trying to make this at home, Nick's gonna be dropping this off at your house. If you're a patron of Cellarman's Folly, he's gonna be dropping this off at your house. You're gonna watch this video and hopefully make a nice, delicious apple treat for yourself to enjoy while we drink our cocktail on Monday night. So make sure you check out all that information. I'm gonna leave all that in the details below because if you're not a patron, you still get to hang out with us this Monday. We're gonna do a live stream of the event and it should be a lot of fun. So please come hang out. Let's eat this thing, huh? Get a little bit of that ice cream too. Mmm. That's really good. It's just a fun little way to make an apple pie inside of an apple, you know? Why not? I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you soon. I'm gonna go eat the rest of this.